Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Above the Bar podcast, where each week we belly up to the bar with a new guest, find out what they do, who they are, and what makes them great. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Alrighty, folks, it's the Above the Bar podcast and your host, Sean, and we've bellied up to the bar here on Juneteenth, which is fitting that our guest is in Texas, and today is Juneteenth, and that's where everything ended. John, have you frozen on me? I think our guest, they already froze on me. I like it when people's pictures freeze, folks, because they're never in the greatest position of their lives. When their picture freezes, it's always in a horrible look. So, John, your mic is muted and your picture is frozen. Can you at least talk? Let's see if that works. Oh, nope, you went mute again. Oh, let's see. He's muted, and I can't unmute him. Can I unmute you? Nope, you've muted yourself, so I can't unmute him. So when John comes back and he's unmuted himself, hopefully he doesn't have to. If he needs to, he can log out and log back in and see if that works. But I'll talk about him here real quick. So joining us today is Mr. Jon Harper. We'll give him his applause when he's able to get his technology back up and running, to give you kind of every rundown on John when he comes back to us. John is a corporate executive inside of a Fortune 200 company. If you go and look on his LinkedIn, you can see what company it is. I'm going to pick on him here when he comes back. He works on mastering or turning around teams. So basically taking teams that may have had issues, had failures, whatever the situation is, working with those teams and getting them back together. I'm actually going to have John at some point after this call see if he can pull my resume that I submitted to his employer some years back. And I had one VP out of like South Carolina or something like that I had reached out that was like, I would absolutely hire you today based on my resume. And then the one here in my local area was like, no, I'm not hiring you. I think that one was intimidated by me personally. 20-year 20-year gunnery sergeant, 12 years in the recruiting field, train the trainer, bachelor's degree in human resource management, and business development director for a largest staffing firm in the North Country of New York. And I was like, hey, I'll come work for you guys.
Yep.
Oh, no, I don't want you. So, but you all can go figure out who that is and check out what John's got going on. Like I said, he's got a LinkedIn, but here's the thing that I love most about what he's got going on, and we'll be able to give him his applause here in a moment, is this is something important to me that I think is great, is he's applied a biblical-based principle to turning around teams. And if you've not heard me talk about one of my favorite books, Business Secrets of the Bible, this is, I would tell you one of the greatest lessons that you can take from that book is the guy who wrote it was a rabbi. He talks about don't give people meaningless tasks. You waste their time, you waste your time. And this is, if you look in the Bible, it's the same idea. Nobody had a meaningless task. Everybody had purpose. So when you give people purpose, you give them tasks, they give more of a shit about what they've got going on. So joining us in a city that I want to go eat in, all the way down in Houston, somebody's going to send me some Viet Cajun sooner or later. It's Mr. Jon Harper.
Hey, thanks for having me, Sean. Excited to be on, man. And yeah, like it is a huge passion of mine to apply biblically based leadership principles, and excited to dive in with your audience and just pull up a seat at the bar and have a chat.
Well, we are definitely going to do that. But before we get too far into it, we got to talk about Sticker and a Cause. Folks, I tell everybody every week, make sure you reach out to us on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, X, Instagram, all those different places. You can always find us. But one of the things we do every week is we do Sticker and a Cause. That means if you've got something you believe in, something you're supporting, I don't care if it's your local book club, you reach out to me and I'll read all about you live here on the air, and I'll read about your sticker. Well, one of our upcoming guests, her goes by Orchid Fickle, Finkle. You can find her on Instagram. You can find her on TikTok. Her first name is or oh God, I'm working on my Spanish, folks. I have got all the Spanish stuff going. My wife will tell you. Her first name is Orquida, Orquida, Orquida. I
That's
would
pretty
pronounce.
good.
I think I can roll my R's. I'm pretty good at that. Orquida, but she goes by Orchid Fickle. She's going to be on. She's got books. She's got tarot card designs. She's got T-shirts. She's got railroad related stuff. She's a railroader. So we got her sticker here, the Express. We're going to put that up on the big board here. That way everybody can see about her and you can talk about it. So make sure you're reaching out to us for stickering a cause. And if you're just logging on, please make sure you're sharing this on all your favorite Facebook pages, all your favorite yard sale sites. There's no reason that you shouldn't be getting kicked off of your yard sale sites for sharing this. That is your goal. It's what I want to happen for you. So make sure you're doing that for us. All right. Now let's get into our sponsors before we start talking to John. Our sponsors, as always, are Budget Blinds of East Greenbush and Budget Blinds of Hudson and Coxsackie, New York. They are the #1 window treatment company in North America. They even have locations up in Canada. They cover all your window treatment needs, whether that be honeycomb, roller shades, even do drapery custom. No window too big, no shape too crazy. They work with some of the most premier companies in America. We're talking Hunter Douglas, Lutron, Blinds, Corners, and Curves, which is the only motorization company in the U.S. for any shape you can imagine. They work with all of them. They do the measurements. They do the installation. And if you're here in the capital region and you're heading down to the Hudson Food Festival this weekend on Saturday, make sure you're coming out and you talk to them. Let them know what you got going on. And if you let them know you're there to belly up to the bar, they're going to take good care of you, give you at least a 15% discount on your entire order. But this month, they are running 20% off your entire order. Plus, if you do motorization, they'll give you another 5% off your order. That's Budget Blinds of East Greenbush and Budget Blinds of Hudson and Coxsackie, New York. All right, John, house cleaning is done. It's all done. How are you?
I'm good, man. We are having a rainy day in Houston today, which is a welcome change from the blistering heat. But we are ready to rock and roll well into summer. Kids are off, so for somehow the background of my house is eerily quiet with a 4 and a 7-year-old. So I'm gonna have faith that everything's good.
I wouldn't hold my breath. And I'm just kind of looking over your background here for a second. So you've always kind of been in something customer service based, customer relations based, working with people, and a sales background at that also. I mean, you've always been that. What do you think drew you into that world to start with?
Yeah, I mean, quick 2-minute backstory. Like, I studied architectural engineering in school, which is not exactly a precursor to anything that I've done thus far. But when I wrapped up my when I went into college in 2005, that was a great decision, right? A lot of building, a lot of commercialization, a lot of real estate boom, all that stuff. I graduated in 2009, and everyone was like, well, what the heck are you gonna do with that? Because the real estate bubble had burst, and right. So here we are. And I had a buddy of mine that was making some good money in sales and jumped into that, and it proved to be fruitful. So I've always been a people person, though. I love to interact with people. I love to hear their stories. I think they're the most fascinating things to learn about. And the human dynamic has always been really fun. And then it just led into the leadership journey that I've taken over the last, call it 8 to 10 years.
So you just felt that natural pull. And I tell people all this time, doctors are great. Nurses are great. Dentists are great. Nothing happens without a salesperson.
Yep. True.
And I'll be honest, it's gained a negative connotation over the years. And I'm on a personal journey to break that. Because when somebody tells me, well, you're a hell of a salesperson, I'm like, thank you. I appreciate you saying that, because that means I know my product. I know my service. I'm good with people, and you trust that what I'm telling you, I'm not trying to put a smoke screen around it all. And you know that I'm sincere about things.
Yeah.
What has been, and I know don't give me I agree with all that. What has been your approach from a sales standpoint, moving up the line? That's kind of, I mean, you're a VP now. I mean, that's not a BS position. What has been your kind of process as a salesperson to get to that level?
Yeah, so I think sales has evolved tremendously over the last, call it decade, decade plus. I tell my salespeople and my leaders all the time that like salespeople are not problem solvers anymore. We're mainly problem finders. And the reason for that, right, is if I know I have a problem before a salesperson walks in my door, I can just pick this up and solve it. Right. So
Right.
if I'm not careful as a salesperson and I'm just, hey, what problems do you have? The problems that I have that I'm willing to fix, I'm already fixing with my smartphone, right? So like sitting on my couch, drinking whiskey on the rocks at 9:30 at night, I'm solving my problem where you show up at my door. So that's the evolution that I've seen in sales. Yeah, right. So it's
9:30 at night, you're causing your problem. I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah. So I think sales has evolved in a big way where it's like, listen, we have to be almost as much human psychiatrists, like understand how people think and how people make decisions as much as we are solving their problem. Right. I'm a big believer that there's a famous quote that Henry Ford had. And he said, if I would have asked my customers what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. And like, if you think about like how human dynamic works, a lot of times we don't know what we want or what we need in the moment. And I think it's our job as salespeople to figure out based on where you are going and the challenges that are in front of you to kind of pull back the curtain and help you get further ahead than even maybe you realize you need to go.
I 100% agree with you there. Your job as a sales professional is to really figure out what their need behind the need is. When they tell you, oh, we need, and I just finished, it's funny you bring up Henry Ford. I just finished My Life, My Work by Henry Ford. But it's your job as a sales professional and as a leader in general, and we're going to get into the leadership side to this as a sales professional, because guess what? As a leader, you're selling the idea to your staff that, hey, if you would like to keep your job, these are the cool things that you should do, like showing up to work on time, looking the part, dress for the job you want, not the job you have, all these kind of things. But what got you into the other side of this, which is, I mean, I'm looking at your resume here, and I mean, regional business manager, business sales and marketing director, national account manager, sales executive. These are all one-on-one working with leaders. They're money jobs. Let's be honest here for a second. And these are commission-based money jobs. My words make me money. Now you're in a VP role, and typically, and not trying to put your paycheck on Front Street, but typically those roles are out of the commission world and into a salary-based world, which for those of us who like commission, and guess what, folks, if you think commission's BS, that's because you're not really good at your job. I'm going to be honest with you.
Very true.
You're not good at your job. If you sit there and you go, oh, I would never take commission, that's because you're not good at your job and you like to slack at your job. If you're really good at your job and you know that you're good at your job, you want your employer to pay you commission, and you want to tell them to keep that base salary, because that commission is where typically commissions, depending upon what you're doing. I know of positions that can be up in the 30 and 40% of a sale. So you're not making that right now. I promise you, you're not making that with your $20, $25, $30 an hour job. It's just not a thing. But I digress. So what made you decide that, hey, I can do more good outside of that to helping build teams?
Yeah, I passionately believe that everything rises and falls on leadership in most organizations. I passionately believe when the leader gets better, everyone gets better. And I have a very high pain threshold if I know that I am making people better. And I am seeing people's lives change because of what me and my leadership team are implementing. And so it was a transition that made sense for me, and yes, like you are absolutely right, Sean. Like for those of you that are listening, if you think, oh, just because I can promise you, just because you have the title doesn't mean that money follows all titles. I know I have salespeople that work for me that make more than me, right? So like let's just put it out there, right? But I think you have to, anybody that has explored leadership, who has worked for me in any market, including this one, I tell them point blank, leadership, do not do leadership for money. And it doesn't mean there is no money in it, right? Like we're, I don't want to, I'm not making $10 an hour. So like, I mean, if you want to Venmo me some money, you can, like, fine. Like we can figure that out. But like, listen, if it's, hey, we are looking for the highest comp leadership, and that is the reason, don't do it. Cause there's so many headaches in leadership. I mean, you think about it, like I lead a region right now of 30 individuals through 3 sales teams, and help at a divisional level with, another 3 regions. And like with more people equals more problems, right? Like people are messy. People are very messy, and they all have different wants and needs and problems and situations. And so the reason I transitioned is because I felt like I could make a difference in helping people take the next step strategically, because it's really hard to navigate sometimes the career, path waters, not knowing what you're going to get into. And full disclosure, like I've worked in corporate America all my life. If you don't advocate for your own career, not a lot of people are going to do it with and for you. And I wanted to be the leader that was an advocate for people. And I wanted people to be able to trust somebody else in the organization, that they weren't going to ride solo the entire path of their career. And again, like going back to your intro, like I just believe that was a biblically based, principle around the leadership side of the business that I didn't see a lot in the organization. And I wanted to fill that gap.
Now you brought up the biblical piece already, and that's something I really want to dive into, because I think regionally, it's probably very easy. I've never lived in Texas. I've been to Texas a couple of times, but I feel like, hey, if you did it in Texas, probably not a hard sell.
Yeah,
for somebody to be like, walk that path.
Yeah.
Jesus walked that path. You can walk that path. Somebody's going to be like, damn it, my grandmother said that. I guess I could do that. Where in the Northeast, where, I mean, honestly and truthfully, where I'm at right now, a few years back was ranked as the least most faith-based city in America.
Yeah.
Was Albany, New York. Capital of New York, the least faith-based city. How scary is that for a guy who goes to church every Sunday? I'm just throw that out there.
Yeah.
So
True.
what has been, not necessarily from that local level, what was the vibe that you got from people? Oh, you got it. Chrissy. Grisky says hi. Hi guys. Hi, Chris.
Hey, Chrissy.
But what was some of the initial, from the bottom up and then from the top down to your level? What was the vibe that you were getting from people, whether it be good, bad, or indifferent?
Yeah, man. Like, I'm a big believer that the source doesn't necessarily have to come out. And what I mean by that is, I think people, whether in Texas, where it's easy to sell God in Texas, let's be honest, right? So like
guns and booze, right?
Yeah. So it's real easy to do it in Texas. But I think people still, anywhere I've traveled, whether it's the Northeast or California or Pacific Northwest, or in the farm towns in the middle of the country, like people still gravitate towards people that keep their word. People still gravitate towards people that speak the truth in love. People still gravitate towards people that tell them the truth. People still gravitate towards people that do what they say they're going to do. People still, right? Like, and it's so rare. I'm so passionate about this subject, honestly, Sean, because man, it's so rare to find somebody that does what they say they're going to do, that keeps their commitments, that tells the truth, that looks out for other people for real, not when it's convenient. Like, and all those are biblically based, but I don't have to say, well, Jesus said, right? I just lead like that. And so I think that the translation doesn't have to be, I can't tell you how many people are like, man, like you lead different. Like, where do you get, like, I don't understand who taught you this? Like what? And that opens a door. They don't, I've never, listen, I've been in Houston for 2 years. I didn't come into Houston being like, we're following God now. Like, that's not how I introed, right? It was just like, this is how I lead. And so I can't tell you how many people are like, dude, why your first year here, you sacrifice your family's financial situation to build the region you did. And it was like, I gotta look out for the people I'm serving. Like, again, I'll go back to the biblical thing that I didn't have to say. I just showed, right? Mm-hmm. The greatest among you must be servant of all. So I had to serve my people. So I served my people for a year selflessly, right? And I still am in year 2. And I can't tell you how many people are like, why are you doing this, man? Like, we can't figure it out. Like, I don't understand. Because a lot of people say, and Chrissy, you're right. Like, sometimes people say a lot of stuff and don't keep their word. Actions talk. And so the whole biblically based thing is not a matter of me coming in and going, I'm doing this because Jesus said that. That's what I tell myself. But my actions speak so loudly and so consistently that I can't tell you how many people are like, did you read a book somewhere around this? Like, what? And I'm like,
it's been around for a while.
Right. You're like, yeah, yes. And like, if they ask, I will share with them at whatever level they want to, are willing to hear. But it's so powerful to do the basics. And yeah, I mean, it's fascinating when you don't have to preach it. You just live and you live what you believe to be true, and you're honest and you're forthright and you're honorable and you work harder than the next guy in the room, and you show up early and stay late and you give it everything you got, and you encourage people, and you're direct when you need to have tough conversations, and you like hold a standard of excellence, and you hold people up, right? And you call people up and not call people out, and you don't gossip in the office, and you don't, like, all the stuff, right, that you see in the good book. I don't have to reference it. It has been so fascinating over 8.5 years of leadership that I at least 100+ people has come up to me like, why did you do that? Like, you keep doing it that way. I mean, it's working, and they feel a certain way, but they're confused almost.
It's wild.
It's wild.
And look, folks, if you're finding Jon through me or me through Jon, make sure you're giving this a like, share, a follow. He does have a new YouTube channel, just started, would you say 2 weeks ago?
Yep. Just kicked it off.
Called First Time Leader, where Jon addresses these in YouTube videos. Are they mostly shorts? Or are they? Yeah.
So we are releasing our first long form in 2 days. So it's about where to start as a first time leader. What I've found is, like, I think leadership is the least taught skill set in the world. Personally, I think most people jump into leadership, especially first-time leaders, because they were really good at a skill, and then their boss was like, "You've been really good for really long, so go lead people." And those are two completely different skill sets, right?
Thank you.
Like, those are completely different things, right? So I can't tell you how many people have been put over. They were a really solid, really dependable, really honest HVAC technician, and now they lead a group of 15 HVAC technicians because their owner expanded and they needed to delegate leadership, and they don't know how to freaking lead people. And that's nothing against them, but nobody's teaching them.
They've never been trained.
Nobody's teaching them, man.
Yes.
So that is the kind of the genesis of this first time leader channel, is to like prepare people and really get people resources to say, like, dude, you got to know people. You got to start to learn other human beings. It's hard enough to learn myself. Now I got to learn 5 people or 50 people or however many people I now have to lead. Those are 2 different worlds. So that's what that channel's about.
That is so true. I've seen it so many times where people are like, "You're really good at coloring inside of the lines, kid.
That's right.
You can run the whole class." Like, hold on, bud. He can't tie his shoes. He's just really good at that one thing that you give him. And he always shows up to work because he hates his house. He hates being at home. So he'd rather be here. Like, they don't work together.
That's right.
You're 100% on the mark with that. So we've got the YouTube channel going. We've got what else? I mean, I'm just going through the repertoire. I forgot to tell you, when I look to my left, I'm not ignoring you. I have another screen over here that's got all my notes about you. So I don't want you to be like, this dude ain't even paying no attention to me. He keeps looking over.
Dude, if I would have thought that, I was not in corporate. I was not in any business setting over the last 5 years post-COVID.
This is true. Yeah.
Right. So in 2016, I would have thought you were an asshole. Now we're fine.
Yeah. Now it's just like, everybody's got 15 screens around them. They all look like at any moment they could be starting Skynet for themselves.
100%.
So in everything you've done from the leadership standpoint, I know you started the channel. I guess that's my next question is so you feel like you're having success in the corporate world. You're applying your skills. You're with a very, and I'm not going to say the name of them, but you're with a very, solid company, which I'm curious how AI is affecting them. If you ever want to just mention, because I would feel like
happy to, yeah.
AI in that world could be very interesting to me, but you're doing all that. I guess my next question though is, what made you think that you could take that out of your personal office environment and do a YouTube channel and start training people or working with people outside? What made you think you had that skill?
Yeah. So I have always been a communicator. I've always studied communication. I am really passionate. Like when I get on stages in front of people, it is the highlight of my week, month, year. Like I love speaking engagements that I get invited to. I think that they are so powerful, and there's nothing more engaging than a group of hundreds and thousands of people that are actually hungry for growth. And so when I started to get exposed to that environment, it really showed me that people are not getting as much help in the leadership world as we may think they are. Right. So I work for an organization today that it is an unbelievable organization. It's unbelievable. Like, let me just preface what I'm about to say with, they are incredible. Okay. And we talk more about how to help sellers sell than we do how to help leaders lead by 1,000x.
I can see that.
Right.
I can definitely see that.
100%. I'm not saying that's wrong. What I am saying is what it creates is when a leader starts to struggle, the deficit is so high, your attrition within the leadership ranks starts to dwindle, and quickly. So I can't tell you how many leaders became leaders because they cared about helping people, got very little support. Again, not to the fault of I'm not bashing anybody, but because everything was seller focused. And again, we just talked about the money aspect a minute ago. It's not like the leader's making double the seller, right? Well, I was good at selling. I jumped into leadership because I wanted to help people. The sellers are getting the resources. The money is probably equal to less at the leadership level. And the frustration's higher because I'm not getting the support that the seller's getting. I'll just go back to selling. And the frustration's way less because I don't have to deal with my people's garbage.
I don't have to deal. I'm dealing with me.
Yeah, 100%. And I could barely deal with me, let alone the 7 people, 10 people, 25 people, right? That I gotta, right? So I don't have to deal with all that drama. So I am passionate about the leadership subject because I believe that people need help within the community. And full disclosure, man, I don't think leaders have a community at all right now to be able to bounce stuff off of, to be able to relate to. Like, it's almost impossible to find a place. And I'll tell you where this idea came from too.
Hey, please.
I was having a conversation with my wife, probably 3-4 months ago, and my wife stays home with our children. We're blessed enough to let that happen. And as much as she cares about what I do, she's dealing with a 4 and a 7-year-old. So she listened lovingly to me, but immediately she didn't relate to it.
Couldn't process it. So that wasn't. So then I went to a buddy of mine who was another leader in another organization. Well, he was having similar problems, and we had an unbelievable conversation that helped me. And not knowingly, he had other things going on that were similar. That 30-40 minute conversation helped relieve some stress with each other. We kicked around some ideas on how to deal with our similar situations at each place. And we talked last week. We basically solved each other's problem just based on the conversation. And I can't tell you how many leaders exist today that go to work,
they can't complain to their boss because their boss is just going to call them a complainer, right? They complain to their colleagues, and their colleagues are worried about their team, not mine. They can't tell other employees because no leader should spill that out in the ecosystem if they want their people to stay engaged. So they go to work, they deal with the garbage, they come home, their spouse may or may not be in an equal setting, and they go to sleep and they do it again.
Have you ever listened to Brian Ward Dad Up podcast?
I haven't. No.
I'll recommend him, and you kind of remind him. He's been on the show. Guy's incredible. 21,000 followers on Instagram. Really, but something you're saying resonated with me. He actually created a, what did he call it? He didn't. Maybe he did call it board of directors, but he created a board of directors for himself.
It's awesome. Yeah.
Where he went to these people and said, "Hey, I want to once a month, once a quarter, meet with you. I'll tell you what's going on in my life. You guys are going to provide me information or feedback on what I need to do or what, roles I should be taking, because you're my board of directors.
Love that.
I trust what you're saying." And it almost reminds me of what you're saying here, of kind of creating that board of leaders. And look, nowadays, if you want to be in a leader group, well, I need $1,000 a month, and you can join my my mastermind.
That's right.
I'm going to show you. And you know what's amazing to me with these masterminds 9 out of 10 times, and maybe I'm completely wrong, and maybe it's just I'm not in the right space, but I think I am.
Yeah.
I've never heard of any of them. I've never seen them do anything.
Yep.
They're hey, this is Joe Jones. He played in the NFL for 2 seasons, broke his pinky toe, was smoking crack underneath of a bridge for the last 3 years, but realized he could get his life together. Mastermind class, and I'll teach you how to do it also.
That's right.
That's what I feel like every time. So now, is that kind of what first time leaders is, hey, this is a space for people in those roles to be able to lead. And real quick, Chrissy says, I'm not a good communicator, but I had some stuff happen where I now don't trust people. So unless I really need to talk to someone, I don't. That is horrible to hear, Chrissy.
That breaks my heart,
because there is nothing more important. Like my wife and I have completely different roles, but we're great at communicating with each other and bouncing ideas. If I didn't have her and my best friend Ken and my other best friend Sean and Terrell, I'm a firm believer the richest man in the world can count 5 friends on one hand.
No doubt.
I married mine, so
yeah,
that's horrible. But is that kind of where you're going with first time leader? Is like, hey, this is a board of directors for all of us to work together. Where are we going with it?
Yeah, I mean, so it really is content based on feedback that I've gotten from the leaders that I've worked with over the years on what they've struggled with. That's where we're starting the channel. One of the things that the channel is coming out of. So I have a book coming out it's between March and April of next year, and the title of the book is Rebuild, Don't Repair: Why Fixing Things Doesn't Fix Things. And what we talk about in the book is just like, I think we're trying to put Band-Aids on stuff that needs surgery a lot. And we're doing that a lot in groups and in pockets. And so first time leader came out of that, where we're like, okay, can we just give without asking? Can we give real life from real life scenarios, not what can sell a course, not what can sell what, like, I want you to be able to pick and choose what content you need for when you need it. And it's going to be as unfiltered as humanly possible from my 10 years in leadership. And so at different levels, from frontline leader to now I lead leaders. And I think that like the majority of leadership is stay PC, don't ask, don't tell, like, right. But while that is very corporate, it doesn't help people. It doesn't. Right. Leaders go home and they're stuck. And they're frustrated, and they can't say they're frustrated, and they can't fix that they're frustrated. And so this first time leader channel is really about, how do we actually do this? Like, how do we actually build a team? How do I have hard conversations with an asshole that's going to be an A type with me, that what if they go to HR? What if they, like, how do we do this in a real life, not like, here's the 5 steps to a successful conversation. Like, That bullshit pisses me off so much because it doesn't apply. It's like
Right.
it applies in a outline. It does not apply in a real life dialogue. And so first time leader is going to be, okay, you have a team of 10 people. 2 people are people that are constantly gossiping about everything wrong with the company. It's crushing your culture. How do you actually deal with it? You have a boss that you can't go to and hope. And I'm not putting words in your mouth, Chrissy, but if I told my boss something and now it's created mistrust, how the hell do I operate now?
Right.
In a healthy way with a boss that I can't talk to, that I can't rely on, that I can't trust in, and do my job well and have job satisfaction and have mental health be okay and have it not impact my wife and my kids. And like all that's a real life leadership. This is not, well, how to grow your team by 10% this year. Like if you do leadership right, that's the net result.
Right.
It's not anything else. And so that's what first time leader is about, is really because all your boss is going to talk to you is about numbers. As soon as you become a first time leader or any first time anything in leader, it's like, how you growing the number? That's all they care about. The reality of leadership is 99% of it is you're in the trenches, in the dirt, and nobody helps you with how to deal with being in the trench or in the dirt. And that's what first time leaders about.
You're going to take that first leadership role, and the first thing they're going to do is be like, so let me show you how to read these KPIs. Right now you're at blank percent. I'd like to see this up by 5 points by the end of the year.
100%.
Just understand, I know you can do it.
Oh, and I will tell you, Sean,
just so you understand,
dude. And I will. This saying that I'm about to say will summarize all of what I just said. Here's what leaders hear. Hey, we need you to do this. First time leader, if they don't ask the boss, they ask themselves, how will I do that? If they ask the boss, how will they do that? Here's the boss's answer, 85 to 95% of the time. That's why we pay you, man. You got to figure it out.
Yes.
What the fuck?
They don't know either.
Like what? Like that's not a good answer, right? So like now I'm going back. I'm a first time leader. Even if I'm not a first time leader, if I'm a leader dealing with that for the first time, okay, then I leave that conversation no less informed, but increasingly more frustrated. Now what? Like, there's no resource. I have looked. I cannot find a resource where people are like, well, shit, like, how do I?
I have a resource. Do you want it?
I'm ready.
Go down to your local recruiter's office, Marine Corps preferably. Sign up, go to boot camp, spend 4 years in the Marine Corps.
There you go.
And you will be force-fed leadership. You will see good. You will see bad.
Yep.
You'll see all of it. But I say that only because that was my learning process.
Totally.
That was my learning process. And I say that in a legitimate, joking manner, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And Chrissy said real quick, because Chrissy, I appreciate you being so involved in this conversation. Awesome. Going to say being a leader, I'm going to say being a leader. I'm sure there's a certain a-hole that are followers. Absolutely, and that's almost always a boss's answer. Well, I'm going to, devil's advocate. That's probably because when that boss was handed the position that you're now taking,
yep,
they asked the same question and were told the same answer
100%.
of, hey, look, that's what we hired you for. If you don't know how to do it, why did we hire you? Or it's going to be something along those lines. Very rarely will you find somebody who's going to say, hey, well, let's discuss a process. What have you done?
Yep.
I have a buddy who's a very good leader, and I love his answer to everything, which is, how did he say it? People would give him all these problems, and he'd say, why'd you clean my glasses? And they'd be like, what? Why did you clean my glasses? And they would be like, I don't understand what you're saying. And he'd be like, look, I could already see the problem. You just cleaned my glasses to show it to me in a different way.
Right.
What is your solution?
Mm-hmm.
And they would be like, well, I would do this. Okay, go do it.
Yeah.
I'm that leader. If you tell me,
for sure,
hey, I think I should paint it pink and put purple polka dots on it and it'll work better. Okay. And if it doesn't work, you got to clean that paint off and let's come up with another one. That's my leadership.
Yeah.
What for you? And I am also, I'm going to get your opinion on something. I don't like this term. I know it's a new buzz term. I know it's a biblical thing also, but it drives me absolutely nuts. I don't like the term servant leader.
Yeah.
And it goes actually, Henry Ford used that term. It's funny you bring him up. Henry Ford used the term servant leader, and it's kind of brought itself back up. When you're working with folks, is there a particular style? And I'll tell you why I don't like servant leader, because listen, folks, most people, if you understand truly what a servant leader is, that you're focused on service to your people, that only goes so far as when you got to sign a check. And then most leaders will be like, it was him. Oh, that guy over there. Yeah. I tried. He messed it up. That's what most of them do. True servant leadership is a very biblical thing, where that's what Jesus did. He served his people. If you listen to Henry Ford, Sam Walton, any of these guys, they will tell you, don't worry about the money, serve your people, and your reward from God is actually the financials that you get. That's our reward in this life, is your financials. You get find me another job where you get 90% return for serving other people. You get a 90% return on it because you have a 10% tithing. But that's my way of looking at it.
Oh, that's right.
I think it makes perfect sense. But is there a style that you use? Is it servant leadership? What are you using with people to help kind of center them and build that base?
So
I love leadership. I love it.
I think servant leadership in its current way of being used has been diminished into a very shallow form. And I'll expand. So I believe we need to be very discerning on what serving really means. So sometimes employees, no matter the title, can use servant leadership as, well, you should be serving me at all times. And they can flip it, right? Here's how I've used servant leadership as a leader, especially as I grow and evolve with a certain individual, because I serve people differently per person, right? So, I do not lead. I lead fairly. I do not lead people the same, right? So I will tell you, like, one of my leaders that has been in her seat for about 4 years, when she calls me with a problem, I intentionally do not answer the phone and do not call her back for at least 12 hours.
I've heard people doing this.
So, and the reason for that is I asked her week 1, month 1, whatever it was, like, where do you want to be? Right? Like, what's your goal? And her answer I loved. She was like, I want your job. I'm like, great. Fantastic. So guess what? I told her this, and I remind her of this probably once a quarter, once every 6 months. I'm going to lead you to prepare you for what you want. You are not going to understand some of the things I'm doing to prepare you for what you want. Again, we've been talking about biblically based principles. God does that to me all the time.
Every day.
In my life, right? So as soon as I want something taken away, God's like, you asked for something that you wanted to become 15 years from now. If I take it away, you can't get there. So I don't need to explain that to you. You just got to trust me. Now, I am not drawing a parallel between me and the creator. But what I'm saying is, as a leader, we need to discern how to serve our people. Sometimes it's by showing them the details step by step by step. Other times it's by removing ourselves away. Sometimes it's by allowing them to walk into a fire just far enough where it burns them a little bit, and then they can actually learn the lesson, because we've learned based on their character in previous situations that that's the only way they do learn. So we got to let them touch the hot stove, because they're just a little bit uncoachable, and we got to get right. Like, you got to know what serving means. So yes, I serve my people, but I'm such a firm believer that I do nobody any favors by coddling them. I do nobody any favors by hiding the truth. I do nobody any favors by making them feel like they're doing better than they actually are. And I do nobody any favors by making them feel good and allowing them to, because I just believe people know when they're being coddled. People know when people know when I'm babying them. People know when they're not doing their best. Like, you just know in your soul when you go to sleep and you close your eyes and you look up and you're in bed, just you and your thoughts, you know, if you gave it 100%. And if I'm going to baby you, eventually you're not going to, the best people, you know, you mentioned at the top of the pod, some people are intimidated to work for these people or to hire people like you, Sean, because it's like, well, I'm afraid they're not going to be, they're not going to, you know, be coachable or whatever. The reality is the
You're
best
not
people
cooperate with what I want,
dude. The best people, if every time you were like, hey, I need help, and I did it for you, eventually you'd be like, hey, man, I'm fucking grown. Like, what?
I got this.
Like, I don't need you. You're not my parent. I'm not 9. Like, I need you to equip me and let me fall. I need you to push me out of the nest. I can flap my wings. It doesn't mean I can soar like an eagle yet. It just means I'm not going to freaking learn if every time I ask you, you bring me the breakfast. Like, you got to help me learn how to do it. And so, there are countless leaders, because I've learned the leaders that are not willing to do that do it out of their own ego and pride, because they want to be needed.
They feel the need to be needed.
They need to be needed. They need to be right. Like what do you mean they're not calling me anymore? Yeah. Like, that's the job. I need to work my way out of a job. I need people to, I need to lead, coach, train, equip people to a place where I don't hear, I can leave my region for a month and everything's fine. That's the job.
Yes. Folks, we're getting close to closing the bar here. Make sure you're checking out Jon Harper's new YouTube channel, First Time Leader. Like he said, he's got the book coming out next year. It's funny you mention that piece. Again, I'm going to reference Zig Ziglar, who I'm a big Zig Ziglar fan.
Huge fan.
He made the comment, if you have a job or you have a business, is if you can walk away from it he said not for 3 months and come back, and it's not only is it still running, but it's making more money.
Yep.
That, to me, as a small business owner, that's always in my head. Like, where's my next business at? How do I get this one to where it's on its feet and I can hand it to somebody else so I can start the next one, and I can peek my head over every so often, make slight rudder adjustments as I see it from the outside in, and move on to the next business and get that one up and running. Cause that's what I want to do personally. Sure. So I love that approach. And the other thing is I love the way you're talking about certain leaders are addicted to being needed. Like, why don't you need me anymore? Well, you did your job really well. Yeah. But don't you need me? I think as parents, we do it. Like,
dude, leadership is parenting. I tell my leaders all the time. Like, yes. I can't tell you, like, I cannot tell you how many times I'm in my leader meetings and I'm like, what would you do with your 8-year-old? How would you parent her? What would you do with your 2? Like, as leaders, it's no different. Humans are not that dissimilar from when they're like 9 to like 49. Like, we don't evolve as much as we give ourselves credit for a lot of times. Like, that's what it is, dude. Like, again, it goes back. Like, as parents, do you want your kids to constantly be calling you and being like, hey, mom, is this healthy to eat for breakfast? And they're 20-7. No, you get to make decisions on your own. You get to pay your bills on your own. You get to, like, same thing with leadership.
It's interesting, though, is, I mean, I'm putting you on the spot for a second. How old are you, John?
36.
Okay. So what you're talking doesn't match your age group. Mm-hmm. You're the trophy group. You're the every kid gets a trophy, every kid. Now, saying that, you know, and don't get your feelings hurt because I call it that generation. But the other side to it is I am personally seeing a shift as you guys are getting older, kind of being like, I'm done with this. Like, now that I'm in the real world, my bills got to get paid, shit's got to happen. But what has been that approach, that, for lack of a better, that adult approach, that older adult approach of, hey, look, bud, I gave you a task. You told me you could finish it in 2 hours.
Yeah.
We're at 3 hours and you haven't started, and you have to have those tough conversations. What has been, because corporate's coddling right now, what has been corporate's vibe towards you, or people, you know, in other environments from a corporate standpoint? How have they taken that?
I'm as transparent with my HR people and my leader as I am with my people. So, and what I mean by that is I will tell my HR partners in the organization, I'm having a conversation with so and so. This is what it's going to be about. This is how I'm going to handle it.
At least
And
you
I'm
tell
very
them.
direct. And I'm very direct. And the reason for that is so. And it's funny. I have an amazing relationship with my partners in HR, and that's how I look at it as a leader. Like if you're a corporate leader, if you think HR is the enemy, you will have a tough time with leading this way because they truly are your partners. And I can't tell you how many times I've gone to my HR partner and said, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to do it. They know I'm that type of leader. And they've been on calls and in meetings with me where I have addressed it head on, respectfully, cordially, with dignity. I'm not downing anybody. I'm not belittling anybody, but I'm hitting it between the eyes and I'm being very direct. And so I think if you're in an organization where you're having some trouble from a corporate coddling perspective, I think being direct with the people that may be giving you pushback around this is how I'm leading and this is why. Because if I coddle here's the impact it's going to have on culture. The culture is going to trickle into turnover. Turnover is going to trickle into lost profits. Lost profits means everyone's like, if you going back to solving your own problem and kind of articulating the why, like the HR person's working for the for-profit company too. So if they see the relay behind my directness equals quicker turnaround, which equals quicker success, they will just tell you, hey, be cautious here, be cautious there, careful not to use this verbiage, but go for it.
No, that's good. I got to ask you a question, and I'm going to give you one of my favorite lines. I know my wife's watching us right now, and she would tell you I use this all the time. One of the worst leaders. I believe you can learn from everybody. One of the worst leaders I ever dealt with. His name, I'll tell you, is Major Kennedy.
Okay.
I hope he catches an infection in his big toe and his toenail falls off. Just wasn't a good leader. Just wasn't. But I did learn from him. And he used to say this all the time. And I wonder if you've ever used this line. If you haven't, you should. Don't come to me with problems. Come to me with solutions. You ever use that? Is that not what has been in that court? Now, as a Marine, when that was said to me, I was like, Roger, I know what you want. And I could do it. And we would go, here's the one idea I really like. Here's the idea I think is pretty doggone good. And here's just the wild out of the box idea that we probably could give it a shot if we wanted to. But this is gonna be some wild shit. If it works, it's a home run and we'll all be heroes. If it fails, we're all gonna be standing on the carpet. How has been I used it, my wife uses it, but what has been your reaction from people in your world?
Yeah. At first there's frustration because they hear that and they don't hear it as an opportunity to learn and grow. They hear it as a shirking the responsibility. At first they hear it as a, well, I'm asking you for the solution type of thing. Right. And what I've learned is if you tell it does help, especially the generation that's younger, even than my generation as a millennial. Like I'm an older millennial, right? So I'm towards the older end of that spectrum. Anybody in the millennial / Gen Z, if you tell them, here's what I want you to do. I want you to find the solution. Here's why. If I don't help you by not giving you the solution, you'll never stretch your creativity, which means you're always going to have to come to me for answers. And you don't want that for the rest of your career, and neither do I. And they go, oh, like if you help that light bulb hit, because to your point, Sean, in the military, in Marine Corps, dude, you knew what that meant.
Oh,
a lot of immediately, right? Like my grandfather was a Navy corpsman for 40 years. Like when you're in the military, dude, like you got it, right? Like even if you don't got it, you better figure out how to get it. And like, right. So in corporate America, sometimes that coddling so if I tell them, hey, listen, I need you to come up with a solution. Here's why. And I always go back to what they want. And this is a really important leadership thing is like, if I don't know what you want, I can never articulate why I'm asking you to do something properly. So a good example is if somebody says, hey, I need help with this. I'll go, hey, here's what I want you to do. I want you to think about who you would ask that question to and ask 3 people the same question to come up with a version of your solution and come back to me with it in a day. Right. Like and then when they do it, I don't care if the solution is super left field or right on the money or somewhere in between. I will always tell them, hey, you know why I had you do that? And they're always like, I don't know, right? It's usually, they don't know. And the answer is always like, hey, you told me when you first started working here that you wanted to do X, Y, or Z. When you get to that role, you're going to need that skill set. And if I don't let you develop that skill set until you get there, you're going to get there and fall on your face. So when you come to me, I'm always going to try to think of a solution that both solves the problem and stretches you.
That's awesome.
And when you start telling people that, the culture goes through the roof.
Jon, your maturity for a leadership level is leaps and bounds. Like you talk like when I have a 66-year-old guy on here.
I got the hairline of a 66-year-old guy. That's why my hairline kind of looks. You see,
it looks like the Enterprise a little bit.
That's right. That's right.
But I mean, honestly, and I mean that in the most positive way, because there's a lot of people that will go their entire lives and, hey, come to solutions, not with problems. And the person will be like, well, that's what you get paid to do. I don't get paid for that. And they just, and they're 66 years old, not 26 years old. And they still have that mindset of, I don't get paid to do that. That's not my job. That's not my responsibility, kind of thing. Now you mentioned, because we're getting close here to the end, you mentioned speaking engagements and stuff like that. You got anything coming up where people could see you speaking?
Yeah, so I have a couple things. I have an event in Dallas in early October, and I'm a guest speaker at a couple sessions at Aspire Houston here in a couple weeks. So Aspire Houston is a large event here with the couple keynote speakers are Damon John and Kevin O'Leary. So we're having that at NRG. So those are the two things coming up that are top of mind. We have 22 events in 2025 that we're already starting to line up. So we're trying to get that rolling and just starting to scratch the surface, man. Like your words are very kind and I'm trying to make sure that I'm getting people some thought process that maybe they're not getting from where they sit.
It's awesome. I want to get into that guest speaker thing, but I don't know what to say. I can say like I'm really good at saying a whole lot of nothing. That's in front of people and like making it sound like super interesting.
Full disclosure, that's kind of what half the speakers do right now anyway. So, I mean,
I could just talk about, like I always tell people, like I could get up there and talk about like my 20-year career, 8 kids, grandkids and all that stuff and be like, and now look at me today. I'm here in front of you and I'm going to show you the secrets.
That's right.
And be like, but you got to buy my tape.
You could be that 20-year-old marriage coach,
right?
To sell the court,
like never been married. Let me tell you how to raise kids, and I've never had one. I always love those people.
That's right.
Like that goes back to one of my completely sidebar. One of my favorite ever Daffy Duck cartoons, and it was like one of those ones where the mom was going off to build airplanes or something like that. One of those old ones, and she's like, here's the book, just use it. And the book was like how to raise children or something like that. And he reads the book and tries to raise the kid. And the kid's like just bouncing off the walls and tearing everything up. And she gets back and he's like, it was just so bad. It was so much. She goes, I told you to use the book. Didn't you use it? He goes, I read every page. She goes, no. And grabs him and bends him over and starts whooping his ass. She's like, I told you to use the book.
Got to know how to use it.
And that's what this is, folks. Go see what Jon's got. Go check out First Time Leaders on YouTube. He's going to show you a different way to use the book. I'm not telling you he's going to tell you how to beat people with it, but he's going to tell you a different way to use the book, how to make things happen, how to see what's happening. You can also find him over on LinkedIn under Jon Harper, and it's Jon, Jon, Jon Harper. Very approachable person, very easy to deal with, Jon. I highly recommend you check out what he's got going on. As I always say on here, if you found me through Jon or Jon through me, make sure you're giving that like, share, follow. It might sound cliche, but trust me, there is a huge value to all of us. Chrissy, real quick, Chrissy says, going back to parenting, every parent parents differently. I have almost a 3-year-old daughter who interrupts people, and hits personally. repeat, don't interrupt, stomp. I am the parent that, so she doesn't get to say no. If she continues, I put her in timeout. Then I have a 4-year-old that hits himself. I don't raise my voice at him. That makes any better. I try to distract him. Kids definitely don't come with a how to raise or instructions manual.
Be nice if they did.
They would be awesome if they did, but I promise you, Chrissy, they get better as they get older. It just becomes a different problem that you don't have to deal with. And trust me. So now, John, before we end this, I know you said you listened to a few different episodes, so maybe you heard me mention this on all of them. So don't log off on me right afterwards. We just got to talk for a minute. At the end of every show, I think this is a very important thing. Well, let me go. Sorry, we got to do 2 things because Nate didn't pop up. So let me do this real quick because Nate would have popped up and asked this. What is your go-to team building meal?
Ooh, team building meal. I mean, well, I live in Texas, so fajitas is a big staple here. So fajitas at a local, I forget the name of it now. We've gone probably 10 times and I still can't remember because it's the name is Spanish, that's not an excuse living in Houston. But it is a small little dive restaurant right around Minute Maid Park. And they have like 10 tables. And so we get the entire restaurant for our whole region about once every 2 months. Just sit down, share, like it's kind of family style. And it just allows for like open communication, open conversation, and just like really, getting to know I'm a big believer, like get to know each other, man. Like forget about work, just talk about your life, talk about things outside of the stresses of work. So we love to do that.
So fajita. And I was hoping you were going to say Viet Cajun because that's the meal I want in Houston. You guys have Viet Cajun, and I want Viet Cajun.
I feel like I should have taken the cue from the top of the pod. Now that was a listening mistake on my part.
That's okay though, but you were honest about it. And sooner or later, I'm going to end up in Houston just to try Viet Cajun. I just want to try.
It's good stuff.
I have a buddy of mine, another Marine who's right there. He works for one of the auto manufacturers out there.
Okay.
So, but now for the other thing, and again, don't log off on me right afterwards. The guest always gets Cajun chicken for sure. The guest always gets the final word. So what is the final word tonight, John?
Final word is keep growing. Like whether it's in leadership or whether you're dealing with leaders that you're having to deal with. I find that most people that are getting ahead in life, whether it's in leadership or any other space, just keep growing. Like it's so fun to be able to grow and stretch yourself and get out of your comfort zone. That's it. Like you can accomplish so much and have an amazing life if growth is the goal instead of the destination.
Alrighty, folks, be sure to push your stool in. This has been a Second Front podcast presentation found on Apple, Spotify, and wherever podcasts can be found.